se pone contenta. Esta Willy ya cumplió los 30. Después de las 12 no los cuenta. No la llama en el jangueo si no quiere que mienta. Estás escuchando el número 1 en venta. Por eso con nosotros nadie inventa. Me siento como un bichote en los 90. Lo tengo parado, ven pa' que lo sienta. Dale mami, pégate, mírate. Si me miras mucho sabes que voy a besarte. Dale mami, pégate, mírate. Si te ves y me lo agarro entonces voy a llevarte.
Mira, puñeta, no me quiten el
Mami, yo sé que tú te vuelves loca cuando el perreo te azota, pero obligado tú te acuerdas.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. We were resolving a tech issue. These things happen. So thank you so much for your patience. Let everyone know that we are on live. Good morning. Feliz sábado. Thank you for being on. I am Erica Gonzalez. I am with Power for Puerto Rico Education. And we're a nonprofit elevating the knowledge, agency, and organizing power of Boricuas. This includes encouraging and supporting the ability of our community to deliver stories, analysis, and information about the Puerto Rican experience and the issues that matter to us in a way where we are unapologetic and do not ask for permission to take up space. One of the ways we advance our people is through our institute called Boricuas Holding It Down. This is a leadership training that prepares Boricuas in our community on the basics of community organizing. And in this training, which makes it unique, we highlight examples of how Puerto Ricans have organized and punched above our weight to defend Puerto Rico and achieve historic victories stateside that have had a far-reaching impact on communities well beyond. So please visit Power for Puerto Rico Ed. That's powerforpuertoricoed.org to learn more. We also work in allyship with Crucian, Virgin Island women, Chamorro women from the Pacific Islands, as well as Puerto Rican women in the islands and the diaspora to promote food sovereignty. We'll soon hear from 3 Boricua stars on Instagram who are based in South Carolina, Puerto Rico, and Florida. And by the way, let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. I'm in New Rico, so let us know where your influencers are sharing information on the platforms of today and tomorrow. We'll see what happens. To each other so that we can be informed and act. And also so that we can relish our culture, our humor, and our Boricua brilliance. So whether it's the long history of pleneros, singing out the happenings and chronicles of our community, whether it was Luisa Capetillo serving as a lectora, a reader grounded in the tradition of sharing literature, and whether it was the Young Lords printing and distributing their own newspaper, Palante, Boricuas have always been creative information leaders, and we've always navigated all kinds of spaces to share information. So the folks you hear from are operating in the continuum of something our community has done for a long time. Before I turn the mic over to our moderator, I'd like to recognize Policy Link for seeing the vision of today of connecting content creators to resource allies and highlighting how we have primary resources in our community and making mini grants possible for aspiring creators. Thank you, Jerry, Deepak, and the Policy Link team. I'd like to especially recognize my colleague, Christina Rodriguez Greenberg, who, in addition to being a key architect of Boricua's Holding It Down, put so much thoughtful detail into the design and execution of this panel and the afternoon workshops. And I would also like to thank Christina Robinson for her care and planning with facilitation. So we'll now move into the panel, which will include time to hear questions from you. After the panel, stay tuned because we have experts from the Center for Puerto Rican Studies, y el Centro de Periodismo Investigativo, Center for Investigative Journalism, the award-winning center, showing us how content creators apply their research, data, and photos to tell stories. So thank you, Centro and CPI, for being bedrock Boricua institutions. And I want to give a little special shout out to CPI because they're all at a conference in New Orleans and still made time to show up for this. So thank you. Lastly, feel free to post bites of the conversation on Blue Sky, LinkedIn, or other platforms and use the hashtag Boricua Storytellers. So with that, I would like to turn the mic over to Cristina Rodriguez Greenberg and our panelists, Edison Lopez, Antonio Milian, and Miss Angelina. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. So like she said, I'm Cristina Rodriguez Greenberg. I'm the digital organizer at Power for Puerto Rico Education. So you can imagine how excited I am to convene 3 beautiful, clever, important Boricua voices, Boricua storytellers, and pick their brains, on how and why you guys are taking up space on social. So let's get right into it. And let's talk about first, can you tell us what your origin stories are? So where in the US are you? Which, by the way, I'm in Maine. I don't think that there's a Maine Rican saying yet, but I'm a Maine Rican. So where in the US are you guys? And where in Puerto Rico is your family from? And why did you guys start posting? So let's start with Miss Angelina.
I couldn't hear that. Who do you want to start with?
We'll start with you.
Great. Hello, everyone. I'm Miss Angelina. I am coming to you live from San Juan, Puerto Rico, although now I'm currently living in Caguas. My family is from Ponce and Barranquitas. My mom lives in Rio Grande. We're all over the island. I famously came to social media fame from Bad Bunny. I went to wait online overnight for Bad Bunny tickets. I made a TikTok about it. It blew up. Next thing you know, I was making a lot of Bunny content, and that was really what launched me into it. But I think what's really behind that is I really see Bad Bunny as a modern day symbol for our empowerment and liberation as Boricuas, which is why I'm so passionate about him and what is really the message behind why I make content.
Thank you so much. I love that origin story. Let's go to Anthony.
Hey, my name is Anthony Modesto Milian. I live in South Carolina. Weird, but there's quite a few Puerto Ricans that live here. This South and North Carolina.
There's a lot of Boricuas there, actually.
There are. I was very surprised.
Yeah.
So my family is from a tiny little town called San Lorenzo. Super small town. You can literally drive right through it and miss it. And also from Ponce as well. I started making Puerto Rican content at the beginning of the pandemic because no one else was talking about it. As I was scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, everybody was talking about all different types of history and stuff like that. And I was like, let me see. I mean, it was a different way of using social media than what I was seeing. So I just started doing it. And literally no one else was talking about it. So it was definitely a space that I felt needed to be shared. So
thank you. No, it's amazing what COVID brought about in the digital space. And so I'm really happy to hear that it was a Boricua voice, amongst other things. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then Edison.
Hi, guys. My name is Edison. I'm a Floricua, I guess, as what they're calling it now. Up in the New Yorkers. I was born and raised down here in South Florida. But my mom raised me, sending me to Puerto Rico like the summers, the spring breaks. She kept me in my roots, so I was raised very proud. You can see my flags up here. It wasn't until 2019, like the beginning of 2019, when I was a senior in high school, when TikTok, I started seeing reposted TikToks on Instagram, and it was still like a weird app. Like it was musical theater, furries, the dances. But I downloaded it. I was a band kid, so I said I want to be part of this. And but
Yeah.
people thought it was cringe and stuff. Like I thought to post skits. My things were like skits, funny videos. I was in high school still. It was more goofy. There, a lot of those videos are private now, but I started doing the.
I was just gonna ask.
A lot of them are locked away. Gone.
Yeah.
But I started with POV, the Puerto Rican kid in high school, because there was no Puerto Ricans on the app. It was a lot of Indian creators, Filipinos, Mexicans. I'm like, where the Boricuas at? So I made that POV video, and so a lot of people started following me for those type of representative skits. And then I got into storytelling because I feel like it resonated more with people. I love talking about it, culture, our history, and yeah, that's what I become now.
That's beautiful. So I want to jump right into a topic, which Anthony, I actually know you have a lot to say about AI. For those of you tuning in right now, by the way, please feel free to write in the comments any content creation questions that you have for them. I'm going to be reviewing them as they come in. And make sure to hashtag Boricua Storytellers. So AI. Anthony, can you tell me a little bit about what exactly you use it for, and then maybe what you won't ever use it for?
Yeah. So I will never use AI to write a script for me. If I have to write a script, I won't use it. Now, I do use AI to ideate. So basically, like if I have an idea, I'll have it shape the idea so that it's cohesive, because my brain tends to go everywhere. So that, and then also I'll use it like if I don't know a specific figure that I want to talk about or a specific concept, I'll ask AI and I'll say, hey, can you find someone that fits into this concept that's Puerto Rican? And 90% of the time it's spot on, but there are those times where it is wrong. So you always have to make sure that you go and do your own research and quick pitch for the class after this. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That was going to be my follow-up question. I get scared. I get, like you, it's like, okay, help me with the ideas. But then I get worried, right? Because it's technically probably pitching the same type of format, right? Bad or good, right?
Right.
How about you, Miss Angelina and Edison? Do you guys have any like strong feelings on AI one way or the other?
I've never used AI, and
Oh,
I
wow.
ever.
For
So that's
nothing.
my feeling on it.
Okay,
Literally never used it.
that is a very strong
However,
feeling.
I think moving forward, if I were also, by the way, when I'm not on social media, I am a filmmaker, and it does heavily affect our industry, which is maybe why I'm like defensive about not using it, because it has already taken so many people's jobs. Pero if I were to use it, I would probably use it for imagery of like historical things that are hard to find like actual photos or images of, to help with storytelling. So like, for example, if I want to do like some Taino storytelling and I can't find a lot of actual Taino images, I might use AI to help me illustrate the time of the Tainos or something like that. So maybe for like actual imagery, I would use AI, but I'm pretty against it.
Okay, I'm really interested to see, because El Centro is going to do a presentation on like the imagery and usage of that too. So I'm interested to see if she has any thoughts on AI too. And Edison, do you have anything you absolutely would never use it for, or something that is like your go-to that you want to tell our viewers, our audience about?
Sure. I graduated college last year, so the development of AI when it was new is like in the middle of my college days, and so already my university was like on it. Like we would have to submit our papers through like a detection thing to see if people were using AI because people were cheating and stuff. So I would use it. I would never use it to write anything, but I would help it like to organize my ideas, because sometimes my papers I would get like bees because I was all over the place, and so I
These
learned.
are good. What are we saying?
Bees. I didn't want to say "see" on here because intro and stuff. But I started using that for my video ideas because I felt like a lot of times I was all over the place. So to organize, I'll feed it with my script or feed it what I'm going to say, and I can say, "Give me a hook." I can use it as the title or something like that. But it's not all that accurate either because recently I went to New York in the wintertime and I went to Casa Amadeo. I don't know if you guys are familiar. It's like one of the it's the first music store in all of New York City owned by Puerto Rican. And I spent the day with Don Amadeo. I asked him a lot of questions. I wanted to do like a little video documentary for him. And then when I went home to edit the video, and I used ChatGPT for, I guess, to structure my ideas, give me more ideas, and it gave me information that was wrong. It gave me information that he got the score from a family member or something like that, which is not the case. He had bought it from Rafael Hernandez's sister. So I was like, wow, this is not all that reliable. So I guess it still has a way. It still has a long way.
Thank you for that anecdote. That reminds us all to do our due diligence. I think I already know how this is going to go, but let's thumbs up or thumbs down it. AI, thumbs up or thumbs down? Okay, pretty good. Edison, I'm going to give you a C on that one. Okay. Something I'm curious about is authenticity, right? So what I'm wondering is, how does your audience shape the stories that you're telling? So whether it's the language that you're using, whether it's the graphics that you use, or the data or the research that you're diving into, is it your audience that you're thinking about when you're really putting together that concept? Or is it the work and then you hope it finds an audience? What's kind of your guys's way of creating content? Is it, which one comes first, the chicken or the egg here? Let's go with Miss Angelina.
I've done both, to be honest with you. I think that if something is like trending already and I want to add my 2 cents, like I will definitely jump into the conversation because I know it's already a topic that people want to talk about, are talking about, and want my point of view on it, you know? So if there's something specifically happening, like, yes, I'm going to address it. Like, so for example, like Bad Bunny's doing a residency in Puerto Rico, I'm going to talk about it because a lot of my fan base comes to me for Bad Bunny content. But then there's also been times when I just very passionately have something that I want to say, whether it's what people like are expecting or not, or want to hear or not, I'm going to say it. And I think the most recent, most popular, or like best example of that is when I actually thought the TikTok app was going to be whatever, stopped or deleted or banned or whatever. And I had this moment of panic of like, all right, if this is the last couple of days I have with this audience, what do I really want to say? And I made this whole series about how can we save Puerto Rico from the diaspora or on the island, and what are steps we can take or what are things we can do. And it was just a message I felt very passionately about, and that I made a lot of content from my heart that ended up going super viral. But it wasn't something anyone was expecting to hear that was trending. It was just something I knew from my heart I had to get out and say. And that content usually goes more viral a lot of the time.
That's really interesting. Does it feel like just as like edifying, just as good, like when you're doing stuff that you know is coming straight from the heart first? Because it's like, how do you really separate what's coming from the heart from everything else that you're doing in this space, right? So it's like, it kind of is all coming from the heart. I hope, but
yeah, right?
Clearly it is.
I mean, I think that like, kind of like we were saying, the tradition of storytelling is like people, you're engaging in a story and people can feel your energy when you're telling the story. So if you are really care about something and you're telling it with a lot of passion, people feel that on like a human level and they respond to it.
Yeah, you can't fake passion. You really, really, really cannot. Anthony and Edison, anything you want to add about like which one comes first for you guys, or how do you kind of do that content creator math?
Well, I think for me, it's more of the language that I use. I There was a time when I was making a piece of content about a disabled person, and I had used the word handicap. Right. I grew up with a grandmother that had MS, and she always referred to herself as handicapped. So I was like, oh. And then I had a content creator that is disabled message me and told me that, like, yeah, that we don't use that word anymore. We use the word disabled. You know, and so another thing that happened was I was using the word slave in a video, and somebody and they were like, it's not, like, it's enslaved. And I was like, oh, okay. You're enslaved, that's a state of being. When you're a slave, that's who you are. And they're not, they weren't slaves, they were enslaved. So when it comes to, like, my audience, that's how they shape the content. And when it comes to, like, how I speak about subjects.
Wow, that's so powerful, and that is absolutely something when you know, it's such a mind shift when you do change language like that, you know, from slave to enslaved, from handicap to disabled, right? It really changes how you see a person, how you see history, how you see current events.
Yep.
Edison.
It's funny, Anthony, that you say that, because I've gotten the same thing. Just like from the verbiage I use in my videos. One time I got an email. It wasn't just like a comment. They emailed me separately, and they were like, oh, it was like a whole paragraph uplifting me. And they're like, oh, well, I do see that you use the word, I guess I use African slaves, and the correct term would be enslaved people from Africa, or enslaved Africans, the enslaved part. So people correct me all the time. I would say it's like a two-way relationship with the audience and I, because, as I've developed or I've transformed in my audience and I've become more serious, I guess, more storytelling, people in the comments that I've recently started following me give me new ideas, spark new ideas to explore. Also get tagged in a lot of videos, other people's videos. I get tagged by a lot of people that follow me and stuff like that, like the whole Coqui Frog thing. I didn't know about, so people started like tagging me. I said, oh my God, what's going on? And then I got to it. I made a video informing. I used a video that I did about the history about the Coqui a long time ago, and I just edited in the middle. I'm like, hey guys, I stitched it. Like, this is what's going on. This person's trying to freaking get rid of our animal. What's going on? And yeah.
I was just telling my husband about this. I was so angry. Truly, the same feeling I feel for passion is that same anger, joy. Which
I just would like to say, nothing has united the Puerto Rican community more than the attack against the Coquis. Like, I have never seen the diaspora and the island unite more than to defend the Coquis.
Had to be like Coqui. To be using something.
Well, okay. So I am always wondering when I see folks online, content creators online, especially now Boricua content creators. You guys are, as you're saying it, you're balancing not only moral sustainability, right, but also financial sustainability, right? We all have the same 24 hours to eat, sleep, play, and make money. So do you feel like corporate promos are necessary to stay afloat? Like, would you suggest viewers should say yes? And how does that land with your audience in your experience? How has that landed for you guys? Let's start with Edison and we'll go back around.
Sure. So that's how I earn my income on social media. I have my management through brand deals, whether it be with Adidas or Hulu, interviewing talent, whatnot. I guess right now things are slow because of what's going on in the government and stuff like that. But also, I remember when Israel started like attacking Palestine in the first year, there was a lot of boycotting against McDonald's and stuff like that. So I thought it'd be best to turn away a McDonald's deal I did. Yeah, I guess right now with the political climate of the world, it's kind of difficult. But yeah, that's
yeah. And have you had like pushback before, or maybe sparkle?
Actually,
like,
I have.
What you've done?
I don't want to call out. I guess I should, but with the Live Boricua. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that campaign they did, Live Boricua by Discover Puerto Rico. They had me,
I'm very familiar.
and yeah, with a few of my other Puerto Rican friend creators. And then we got a lot of backlash from that because they were selling
I see.
the live Boricua, that you could come to Puerto Rico and be Boricua and this and
Right.
that. So in the video I
Right.
did for them, I clarified like that Boricua is an indigenous identity. It comes from our Taínos. You can't become Boricua. You have to be it. It has to, be in your blood. And yeah, that was also.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I do have strong feelings against that.
Okay, me too.
So, but it's good to hear from your perspective, because we are all human, and like I'm saying, we have to pay our bills. Like we have obligations. How about you, Anthony?
Yes and no. So like, of course, if a brand deal fits within your moral compass and it's not, take it, right? My personal thing is, I was speaking with my brother and he was like, with the work that you do, you have employable skills. So what I did was I put together a sheet of the skills that I had. I know how to write scripts. I know how to do video editing. I know how to do videography, things like that. And I took it to different people. I shopped it around to different nonprofits, and there's a huge need for nonprofits right now to get on social media. So I think you have to think outside of the box when it comes to financial sustainability. But also remember, this work is teaching you employable skills on the job. So take the brand deals. Save as much, at least save 35% of whatever you make, because that's going to go to IRS. And then essentially just go from there. Shop around.
Boricua storytellers and financial advice. Okay, Miss Angelina.
I actually don't work with brands primarily because I think my content is too politically charged that they don't want to work with me. So I actually don't work with brands. Actually, that's not true. The brand deals I do are all local business owners here in Puerto Rico. So that's actually been a fun way to kind of like reshape what does it mean to do brand deals. And for me, it's with working with small business owners or local brands that really don't have much of a budget, but are trying to get their stuff out there. And I like working with them. I like pushing like local people stuff out there. But I think that there's more to be gained than just like actual money, in terms of like kind of like what Anthony was saying is like, I think that again, as like an actress and someone who works in the entertainment industry and the film industry, social media has given me a lot of clout and has given me a lot of like more interest from people wanting to work with me because I have a certain fan base and follower base, which has been very valuable to me. Maybe not like specifically from a brand deal, but maybe I'm going to get this role now that's going to pay me because these people are like, oh, she's Miss Angelina from social media. She has a big following. We should cast her. You know what I mean? So I think there are other ways to find value in this that might not be specifically monetary.
That makes a lot of sense. And thank you for telling our viewers about that. So my final question before turning to at least one question from the audience, because we have about 5 minutes left here, is can you guys describe the joy or any other emotion that comes from being a Boricua storyteller? So from where I sit, I see it as preserving the culture, our unique but definitely varied identity. But I think that it is a very common phenomenon to know that you're a Boricua who's taking up space in a room, whether it's digital or otherwise. Especially it's dominated right by folks who don't sound or look or live like us, right? So what's it feel like to represent the community online? It's a loaded question. Let's keep it a little bit shorter so I could get to at least an audience question. And let's start with Anthony.
That's a loaded question, like you said. It feels good at times, but sometimes it can be taxing emotionally. But I will say, most of the time it feels good. I've been able to learn a lot about myself and my culture just from research that I've been doing. My uncle is like 87 years old, And I recently learned that he was the first Black stockbroker on the island of Puerto Rico. And
Wow.
yeah, and he had no college degree. He just was like, he saw an advertisement in a newspaper, and he was like, I need a job. And he told me about the racism that came along with that and stuff like that. And one of his first clients was the parent of a very famous reggaeton musician. I'm not going to say his name, but
Okay.
if I said his name, y'all would know.
Send it in the private chat.
He lived right across the street from him, and he was like, hey, I need help managing. My son's trying to be this reggaeton musician. Can you help him manage his money? And he was like, sure. Ended up being his client for over 20 years.
Wow.
So not only that, and then when I look at my own family history, I see that there's like this. I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time, but I see like there's this thing where like a lot of Afro Latinos, a lot of Afro Puerto Ricans aren't given flowers, but like I see when I look at like that side of my family, I'm like, I see lawyers and doctors, and they were all Black, they were all Puerto Rican, and no one ever talks about them. So, it's good.
That's awesome. And no one's talking about the Boricua Storytellers, so here we are. First ever panel of Boricua Storytellers. Okay, Miss Angelina.
I get the most joy when it like translates to real life. Like when I'm randomly walking around the streets of Puerto Rico and somebody will be like, wait, are you Miss Angelina? And I'll be like, yeah. And they're like, oh my God, your content inspires me so much. I literally had someone come up to me and said, you're the reason why I moved back to Puerto Rico from watching your content. Yeah. Like when people tell me things like that,
Ooh.
can't really explain how proud I feel and how like humbled I feel, because we're just like talking into this screen to like this vague audience that's out there, but like you're not really like seeing them. And then like the likes and the comments come in, and it's exciting, especially if like famous Puerto Ricans start liking or commenting or sharing. You're like, oh my God, it's cool. But when I meet just like regular people on the street who come up, recognize me, and then go out of their way to tell me that my content has impacted them or inspired them, that's what makes me keep doing it. It gives me so much pride, and it like is so touching and makes me feel really joyful and excited to keep going.
That's beautiful. What a thing you have done, Miss Angelina. Good for you. All right. And Edison.
I love when old people recognize me. I have my Instagram linked with my Facebook. I don't use Facebook, but everything automatically goes to Facebook. But people of all ages have showed like apoyo, gratitude towards me, and they're like, I love when the old people come up to me like, ay, qué lindo tú eres en persona, ay, tú me has enseñado tanto que yo no sabía, viviendo en la isla, que sé yo. That's like fueling to me, like an older person telling me that is crazy. Or non-Puerto Ricans saying, I'm not Puerto Rican, like in the Puerto Rican Day Parade, no, I'm not Puerto Rican, but you taught me so much about your culture, this and that. Also, the community we built, my friends, I met Anthony recently in person after following him for a while in the Trending Up conference, Miss Angelina, and then Puerto Rican Day Parade 2 years back. You see these people on your screens, and then you get to connect with them, and it's beautiful. I love the community I've built through social media as well.
This really is about building a network finally and forever, hopefully. I see there the audience question. Any suggestion for dealing with trolls online? Let's keep this to a short, 30-second as best you can. What's your best piece of advice to deal with a troll? Let's start with Anthony.
Block them. That's it. Easy.
Love it.
Don't even engage. Like there's I was talking about Pura Bepre on my thing, and I mentioned that she was Afro Puerto Rican, and a bunch of people were like, there's no such thing as an Afro Puerto Rican. Block.
Yeah. Block the entire energy, ideally. Miss Angelina.
I agree. You have to ignore. Sometimes I don't block them because they're engaging and they're like giving me comments. And I'm like, thanks for the engagement. You know what I mean? So I'll just let it
Mm-hmm.
be there without letting it personally affect me. But also
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'm like, is this person trolling, or is this person touching a sensitive topic within me that maybe I do need to reflect on? And I think sometimes what could be considered a troll is something that I'm like, huh, maybe I do actually need to address this. Maybe this is something that I need to like,
Mm.
maybe not like directly respond to their comment, but address at some point or like think about. Most of the time it's just a troll being a troll, but every once in a
Yeah.
while I'm like, oh, maybe I should address this or think about this or reflect on this. And I think that's important too sometimes.
I love that little semillita for more content. Exacto. Y Edison.
Sometimes I'll just delete the comment, or a lot. I don't do that often. I'll sometimes just leave it so that my followers can attack them or whatever.
Nice.
But yeah, like Miss Angelina was saying, a lot of times, like, self reflect. I get since all I talk about is Puerto Rico. I live in Florida. I get a lot of, "You're not Puerto Rican. You eres lo que eres un gringo, que sé yo." And so I would always
Yeah.
take that as like a jab or whatever. And Miss Angelina, you posted a video recently that I watched the whole thing because I'm like, let me reflect, and it's like the experience of like living in the diaspora, living on the island. So just reflecting, being self-aware, and yeah, they're good conversations to have in the comments.
All right. Well, before I let you guys off the hook, I have one more, and then we'll transition to some presentations. So at Power for Puerto Rico Education, we're hoping to lead with joy forward and solutions-based educational advocacy. So I wanted to end with this. Can you tell us one of your most proud digital storytelling moments? Miss Angelina, you already blew it. You already told us one of your most, so you're gonna have to tell us like one of your second most. It can be absolutely anything, from that first time you went viral in our community, or maybe nailing a take in one shot, or even having a piece of content, drive political or social change. What was one moment that you were like, thank you, universe, thank you, self, for taking space in the digital world? So I'll start with Miss Angelina.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. The first video that I hit like over 1 million views and like really blew up was I just had a viral video where I waited overnight to get Bad Bunny tickets, and somebody commented, "What? I could never, like I would never wait online that long for anybody." And I made like an offhanded response video being like, you don't understand what Bad Bunny means to Boricuas in Puerto Rico. And I like went off about what an inspirational figure he is and how he's not just a musician, but he's also an activist, and therefore sort of like represents, as I said in the beginning, to me, the evolution and the liberation and the talent and the potential of Boricuas. And that video went so viral, and so many people from so many countries saw it and commented on it, that I realized, like, wow, people like hearing about the uplifting of Puerto Rican people, and it really made me feel like in a time where the most like chisme or the most bochinche or the most controversial hot takes are what are going viral, it really instilled this like thing of me is like, no, like hope core and joy core are like just as important as like
Yeah.
bochinche. And when you're
Yeah.
truly, again, with heart and with passion, talking about the uplifting of your people, it got a huge response and really made me so proud to like put that message out there.
That's beautiful. It really is. And I love that there's a theme here of like being inspired by I'm not gonna say haters, but folks who don't fully understand what's going on. Okay, Anthony.
I made a video right as Joe Biden was leaving office, and it was basically like, Joe Biden should pardon nonviolent drug offenders. And I didn't think anything of it, went to sleep. And then the next day, it had like 1 million views. And Bernie Sanders, all these congressmen and like senators started liking the video. And then Bernie Sanders people found it, they reposted it. And the weekend went by. And then on, I think it was that Monday or that Tuesday, Joe Biden did that. And I got an email from a lawyer in DC that said, I just want to confirm that Joe Biden did see your video before and it influenced his decision. And he exonerated or pardoned like 1,500 people or something like that.
What?
Yeah. And I was like, holy, excuse my language. I was like, oh,
got
sugar honey iced tea.
Damn, now that's influencing.
I was very shocked.
Okay. I need a moment.
Stop that, Edison.
Cool. Yeah, it's your turn, Edison.
Oh, well, I guess being honored for the Puerto Rican Day Parade, this is like that's like
beautiful.
That's our what they call our.
That's our mecca. That's what I've been
Miss
saying.
Universe. Yeah. So I would learn about it in like the history books down here. I'm from Florida, and in Spanish class we would learn about the Puerto Rican Day Parade.
Mm-hmm.
I started content afterwards, and then last year they honored me, and I felt I felt like I was J-Lo. I loved it. I felt recognized. I love talking about Puerto Rico.
That's beautiful.
Yes, and I felt honored.
It's enough to be recognized, okay, people? And actually, that's what I want to call out here. Look what they're all doing with their time, with just taking up a little bit of space, right? What their influence, the people that they're influencing, and how they are valuing themselves too, right? And their voice. And so this is the part where I say thank you so much to the three of you, Edison, Anthony, Miss Angelina. Please, everyone, make sure to follow them. Their tags are below. And listen, I wouldn't be here if I didn't also ask that for you to be a part of our Boricua information ecosystem. So please follow us at Power for Puerto Rico, Power for PR.ed. So power, the number 4, PR.ed. Also drop a link to your Instagram page too, and hashtag Boricua Storytellers, so we can start making these critical connections that we were talking about and building this network of our own of creators and creatives and storytellers. So with that, I'm going to send it back to Erica. Edison.
Hey everyone, what a great panel. I learned so much. I hope you all did too. And again, thank you for your patience with our tech challenges in the beginning. This will live on. That's the beauty of, sometimes it's not the beauty of these conversations. So you can check it out and share it later about folks who are missing the live. And the next person I want to bring up is from an institution that our community built. It has been around for more than 50 years, comes out of community struggle, and a real commitment to linking academia, scholarly work on Puerto Ricans, and the community. So not recreating these kind of ivory tower dynamics where the community is not actually engaged in the shaping of knowledge. And, I want to really salute the Center for Puerto Rican Studies for telling so many, breaking through so much research, including on how Puerto Rican communities that once existed, like around Lincoln Center, were displaced, and looking at and doing this painstaking work of going through the tenants that lived in that area through paperwork, and actually digitizing that and being able to tell a narrative around that data and the stories of our people. So with that, we're going to bring up Victoria from the Centro, who is going to walk us through some of the resources at the Centro, which has unique collections, exclusive collections that you won't be able to get at other institutions. Thank you, Victoria.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited to contribute to this conversation and be in the company of several content creators who have carved out an essential digital space and are giving voice to our community on social media platforms that often can feel reductive and fleeting. It's a challenge, but we're doing it. So my name is Victoria Price, and I am the Director of Communications at Centro, also known as the Center for Puerto Rican Studies. I have been with Centro for 3 years now, and it has been incredibly rewarding in both building community and growing my knowledge of our collective history. Centro is located at Hunter College in a very significant and historic Puerto Rican enclave, El Barrio. If you've attended 116th Fest, you've likely interacted with us and our staff at the Silberman School of Social Work on the corner of 119th and 3rd Ave. This is where you can attend many of our free events, our library and archives, and our Centro Gallery, which premiered our first exhibition, Diasporic Collage, Puerto Rico and the Survival of a People, through September 25th. Additionally, almost anyone working with archives highlighting the Puerto Rican community or focusing on Puerto Rican studies has likely come across our resources, as we are the oldest and largest institution in the United States dedicated to researching, preserving, and sharing the Puerto Rican experience. Because of this, I am here today to give you a crash course in our available resources so that you may utilize them with care in your content creation, highlighting the struggles, triumphs, challenges, accomplishments, anniversaries, key figures, history, and experiences of the Puerto Rican community. So at Centro, we have several units producing academic research on a daily basis that is at your disposal to explore and learn from. The first place to start really is our website, centropr.hunter.cuny.edu. And our goal is to share our resources with our community, and your work as content creators is essential to bringing it to fruition. So today I will specifically be discussing our library and archives, our data hub, and educational resources available to you. So at Centro, we have over 300 archival collections and a library with over 20,000 books about Puerto Ricans, highlighting several topics, including political movements, the Puerto Rican diaspora, and the development of Puerto Rican communities in the United States, community organizations like Charas or Aspira, Puerto Rican migration to and from the archipelago, political groups like the Young Lords, bilingual education, literary movements and figures, and much more. Some collections that we have worth noting are Jesus Colon, the father of the Nuyorican movement. This is also the first collection that Centro ever received. We also have the papers of Helen Rodriguez Trias, a pediatrician, educator, and women's rights activist who sounded the alarm about sterilization in Puerto Rico. We have the collection of Tato Laviera, poet and co-founder of Nuyorican Poets Cafe. We have the collection of Antonia Pantoja, educator, social worker, feminist, civil rights leader, and the founder of Aspira. We have the collection of Evelina Antonetti, Hell Lady of the Bronx, Puerto Rican civil rights and education activist. And then we also have the collection of Pura Belpre, an Afro-Puerto Rican educator who served as the first Puerto Rican librarian at the New York Public Library. We also have the digital archives, which are accessible to view from your computer with over 30,000 digitized items. These digitized items include notes from key figures, letters, ephemera, photographs, meeting notes from specific institutions. However, it is worth noting that our digital archives currently are under maintenance and are down for the summer. So while we do our best to keep these accessible to the entire community and anyone that wants to utilize them, just know that our team is working really hard right now to get them back up. And then finally, the best way to get the fullest experience is to visit us in person in El Barrio. Anyone can visit for free, and by visiting in person, you can view archival records like original drafts of works by people like Tato Laviera firsthand. We recommend you come ready with a topic or collection you'd like to highlight in your content creation and make an appointment to visit in person to do our best to help you. Another key resource is our data hub, an important unit at Centro. They create reports, dashboards, tools, and fact sheets highlighting Hispanics and Puerto Ricans in the United States that are often used as sources by journalists in news articles like the New York Times, El Nuevo Dia, and the Washington Post, and also in books and research papers. So say a politician frames Puerto Rico as a financial liability. Perhaps you want to respond to this in an informed manner. Because you're obviously subscribed and following Centro, you know a recent report was released highlighting the revenue Puerto Rico gives to the federal government via taxes in comparison to other states. This report shows that 39 states receive more federal funding than taxes they pay, and Puerto Rico wasn't number one on that list. This is something you can reference or quote in your content. Additionally, say a politician discredits the voting power of the Puerto Rican community in the United States. You may be able to respond with actual data from our interactive dashboard showcasing the citizen voting population for Puerto Ricans and overall Hispanics in the US. Or say an abandoned school near you has been reclaimed by the local community and is now being sold by the government to an investor. When highlighting this, you can actually use our interactive map showing all the school closures in Puerto Rico as a result of the fiscal crisis. Finally, the Data Hub also recently premiered their first exhibition, which was mentioned earlier, Afterlives of San Juan Hill, exploring the displacement and dispossession of Puerto Ricans by the Lincoln Center Urban Renewal Program, which is on view until September 30th, and accompanied by an informational pamphlet providing data about those who were displaced. Finally, we have our education unit, which is currently developing study guides, lesson plans, and an upcoming digital self-guided course showcasing the Puerto Rican diaspora. So, with all of that, you may be thinking, okay, but how am I going to utilize all of this information? Say you want to create a video about the gentrification of Puerto Rican communities in New York. While it is a modern problem, it is not new. At Centro, you could research available books via our library catalog that explore displacement of Puerto Ricans in NYC. Perhaps the Puerto Rican problem in post-war New York City would work, or you could create a reading list to share with your followers. Perhaps you want to create a video highlighting the government's role in encouraging migration during this time period and would like to reference the vintage photographs documenting this. That may lead you to view the collections of the offices of the government of Puerto Rico in our archives documenting the encouraged migration of Puerto Ricans to New York City during Operation Bootstrap. After viewing those archival photos, you might then come across the documentary Centro produced, Manos a la Obra, the story of Operation Bootstrap, exploring the impact of the government-sponsored program on Puerto Ricans both in the archipelago and the United States. This and many of our videos are available to watch for free on YouTube. They are videos you can reference under fair use for copyright law and point your audience to for more information. Perhaps you want to make a video highlighting San Juan Hill and the exhibition while using the data the Data Hub has collected about the community and where they went. You might view Afterlives of San Juan Hill highlighting the burgeoning Puerto Rican community that migrated to New York City during Operation Bootstrap and then was promptly displaced by the Lincoln Center Urban Renewal Project led by Robert Moses. Some of these residents were relocated to Loisaida. And finally, you may want to create a video highlighting the ways Puerto Ricans worked with and alongside others to resist displacement and create community. Then you might head back to the archives to view the Charas collection spanning 1970 to 2010, highlighting festivals, protests, and occupation of urban spaces that were abandoned or facing development by the city. All of this right here is enough material for a 5 or 6 part series on the theme of displacement and gentrification historically affecting the Puerto Rican community. Finally, after you've conducted your research and are thinking of the materials and script that you may use in your final videos, it is important to remember that as content creators, we must be accountable for the material we are disseminating into our community. I urge us all to consider the following in our content creation. One is that our content is educational and informational. While we want our content to be catchy, how can each interaction be an opportunity to learn something new and meaningful? How can we make sure that our audience, whether they're seeing our content for the first time or the 100th time, is learning something new and being given new resources to explore? Number two is centering decolonial perspectives. How can we center our community without reproducing harmful stereotypes, language, or narratives? How can we activate the archive to illuminate stories that previously were overlooked but remain relevant today? How can we ensure that our content creation is not extractive, but enriching, thoughtful, and deeply considered? Number three is accurate and reliable. In a time where media literacy is lacking, where over half of adults in the US say they receive their news from social media, according to the Pew Research Center, and when we only have 3 seconds to capture someone's attention, we want to do our best to provide accurate and reliable information. We need to determine which resources are reliable. We need to turn to more than one resource when researching a specific topic. Here I'm specifically thinking about Anthony mentioning his use of AI, but also double checking his sources at the same time, because there is a chance that something is inaccurate. Additionally, you want to then check your sources again and again, and then make corrections when needed, when you find the error yourself or when your community is calling you in and letting you know that something is inaccurate or maybe there was a blind spot in your research. Number four is copyright law. So this is a little complicated because copyright is a gray area, but it is important to respect and honor, even on platforms across social media. So I highly encourage you research it thoroughly when you are using content from other institutions or people, as not everything is in the public domain and not everything qualifies as fair use. So I highly encourage you to get permission when possible if you are unclear if your content falls under fair use. So let's say you want to use a video snippet of Operation Bootstrap, our documentary on Operation Bootstrap. If you are not sure that your video falls under fair use, maybe the best case scenario is to reach out to Centro to ask if it can be used. Then something also important to note is archival institutions do not always hold the copyright to the collections they house, meaning they cannot always give you permission to use something, and not everything can be used in your content creation. So if you are monetizing your content, using the images for advertising materials, or using the imagery/videos for entertainment purposes, you might not fall under fair use. So it's really, really important to do your research and make sure that you understand copyright law. And if you are not sure, maybe consult with a lawyer if it's a big project. And then number five is giving credit where credit is due. I'm thinking of photographers, videographers, artists, and the individuals who captured, documented, and interpreted our history. There was someone behind the camera, and their role must be honored. At Centro, while we are not perfect, we've had missteps of our own, and we've done our best to build processes to address this. It's important to remember that these individuals should be mentioned in your video. So consider mentioning them in the caption, tagging them if they are live and have a social media account, and or adding the caption in the text when you show it on your screen. Another group of people that need to be credited are authors and researchers. The field of Puerto Rican studies right now is teeming with new work and research that is constantly expanding the resources available to us. If you use these resources, name them and the people who generated them. And then finally, giving credit to institutions preserving and documenting our history. So I encourage everyone to consider how we, as the individuals and the institutions putting this content in the digital sphere, can encourage our audiences to engage beyond their cell phones. How can we put the resources directly into our viewers' hands by naming the archival collections and institutions where they are located, and by sending those resources directly to our followers that want to learn more? With all that being said, which I went over a lot, if you would like to reach us, you can, one, subscribe to our mailing list to stay up to date. So you can do this on the homepage, or you can also type in that link that's on the bottom left-hand side of the screen and subscribe to our newsletter, which we send about 2 to 3 newsletters a month. And that provides updates about new reports, new articles, our events, our fellowships, opportunities at Centro. We are constantly hiring new people, and we currently have a research initiative, a 5-year research initiative, where we are always looking for fellowships annually. You can also follow us on socials to stay up to date and receive all of our content. This is where you can see the strategy I laid out earlier playing out in real time. These are strategies that we follow ourselves in the communications department at Centro. And then you can also join our press list to receive pitches for new products and releases, including upcoming books, latest reports, tours of our exhibitions, previews of episodes of Puerto Rican Voices and other series, invites to VIP events, and more from our communications department. So there is a QR code on the right-hand side of the screen. You can scan that and request to be added to our press list. And then while we don't respond to everyone, you can also DM us on Instagram, which we monitor our DMs around 1 to 2 times a week. Additionally, if you reference items in our website, our archives, our report, feel free to tag us across social media platforms and send us a collaborator request on Instagram. And then finally, visit our digital archives and make an appointment at the Centro Library to visit in person, or email centro.library@hunter.cuny.edu for assistance. So that is a brief overview of all of our resources. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us in the spaces I mentioned. And thank you all for having me today. I hope this was a helpful introduction to how you can utilize our resources at Centro. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria, and to the team at El Centro. I think the point that I want to echo is the responsibility with content. People in our own community who are the authors of work, the creators of work, they should be credited. And also I'm sure some of you have come across something you've read or seen, and you're kind of like, no, that really didn't capture the Puerto Rican experience. Sometimes we see that a lot in US news media, where we know that there are experts in our community that could have offered better analysis or told stories better instead of like folks outside of it. So we want to make sure that we're super responsible with content, and making sure that we're not reproducing the flaws out there in terms of sharing information with our community. And speaking of thoroughness and meticulousness, the next person I'm honored to present and bring up is Carla Minet, Executive Director of the Center for Investigative Journalism in Puerto Rico. This team is incredible in terms of bringing so many stories to light that otherwise would not be covered. And in case you weren't aware, they were at the very front of reporting on the trove of WikiLeaks, which was basically the back and forth communication, hundreds of pages that were happening between the ex-governor of Puerto Rico, Regino Sello, and his boys club, and revealing a lot of the dark side of governance. So we see how journalism is just so critical to accountability. And Carla, we're so happy to have you here with us today.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for this invitation. My name is Carla Minet. I am the executive director of Centro de Periodismo Investigativo. I've been here for almost 10 years. Uh, and Basically, Centro is a nonprofit organization that's been going on for 17 years, 18 this December. And we do basically three things: investigative journalism, which is the thing we're most recognized for. But we also have a transparency program. We go to court for public records with the legal representation and assistance of the Inter-American University Legal Clinic. And we also have a training institute. We train local journalists from different media outlets. We also train journalism students from different universities in Puerto Rico. And we bring Caribbean journalists to Puerto Rico to train annually. And we also give them reporting grants to do investigations with CPI's mentorship and editing. And we publish those investigations in English and Spanish. Um, I tried to select for this event some of the uses that we've been monitoring of our content by influencers in Puerto Rico. And I wanted to share some of those so that you can maybe have a sense of how they use our information. Before going into those examples, I would basically want to mention that we cover very diverse array of topics. Um, we have we do general reporting that includes housing, public policy in general, um, economic development, health. But we also have a more formalized beats that we investigate permanently, and those are energy. Elivan Martinez Mercado is a journalist that is dedicated to report on energy topics. He just published a book about the people who died after the hurricane because of the um, electricity problems that we had for almost a year. And he uh, basically recovered some testimonies of family members whose deceased parents or grandparents died because of the electricity outages. And this is, of course, um, a very sad story that is not over for us, as most of you may know. We also have two journalists dedicated to the health beat. As you may know, in Puerto Rico, we have a very fragmented um, health system, um, and it's mostly privatized in terms of the hospitals and the services. And our reporters, Jennifer Wiskovich and Amanda Perez Pintado, are completely dedicated to investigate this beat. We also have a public education team. It's comprised of two journalists, Tatiana Diaz and Jose Encarnacion. They investigate the education department in Puerto Rico constantly. They publish a lot of stories. They also investigate other topics related to kids and youth in Puerto Rico, but essentially they fiscalize the Department of Education. And recently we added a journalist to that beat but he is focused on the University of Puerto Rico. Victor Rodriguez, he's been reporting a lot on the university. Just a few minutes ago, I heard from him, and I wanted to share this because this is the kind of story that I think gives a lot of content to report on social media platforms. Just recently, a few minutes ago, a voting about the University of Puerto Rico president happened. And even though all the university campuses recommended um, candidate Angelica Varona to the Angelica Varela Yabona, I'm sorry, to the presidency in the first place, and Dr. Agustin Ruyan Toro in the second place. They all shows the third candidate, Sayira Jordan Conde, which is a candidate that was not favored by any campus of the University of Puerto Rico. So Victor is covering UPR, and we're doing a lot of reporting around that. We also have a gender issues investigative unit in collaboration with feminist media Todas PR, and we've been doing for almost 4 years now different investigations around issues related to gender and women's. So, that said, we can maybe go into the examples that I wanted to show you. Let's see if this is something that I can pull out. So let's see first this example. This is journalist Bianca Grollo. She is one of the influencers and journalists using social media platforms, TikTok and others, to do her content. So that's just one of the examples of how they are using our content. We'll see another one. This is okay. Sorry.
Carla, we can't hear or see the video that you're playing.
Oh, you can't. Okay,
No,
I'm
it's
sorry.
okay.
Let's see. Okay, now I see why.
300.000 fallecidos en el registro de electores. ¿Por qué no quieres hablar de los 5.872 muertos que votaron en el 2020 o en el 2016? ¿Por qué no quieres hablar que la base de datos del registro electoral tiene más de 3 veces la cantidad de personas de adultos mayores de 80 años que dice el censo? ¿Por qué no comentas cómo el registro demográfico se negó a entregarle datos al CPI pese que hay un pleito lleval que lleva casi un año en tribunales? En cambio, tu respuesta es utilizar el código electoral como arma de censura en contra de la prensa independiente de este país. Pues mira.
I want to give some context to the first and the second video. I'm sorry. The first one was a story by journalist Rafael Diaz about the Bay Area modernization of some of the docks that are proposed by this group that has a designer who worked at Disneyland and is bringing, Disneyland concepts and even vocabulary to the proposal that was approved by the government. The second video by influencer Ricky Talavera is about an investigation that we published regarding the voter registry in Puerto Rico and how many people that were active in 2016 and 2020 election as voting in particular precincts and colleges were really deceased. We crossed the cause of death database in Puerto Rico with the voter registry, which we got from a whistleblower, and that in that way we were able to verify that there were people deceased, and we also, of course, did a lot of interviews with family members, obituaries, etc., and checked that those people are really dead. So when we published that investigation, the Elections Commission President, Jessica Padilla, referred our journalists to the Department of Justice in Puerto Rico. And since then, until now, we don't know if the Department of Justice is going to pursue that investigation. Basically, trying to investigate how we got the voter registry, because they say that document is not public. So in that context, Ricky Taveras published this piece in his social media. The third example I want to show you is from Consentimientos PR. Let's see if I do it right this time.
¿Sabías que el Centro de Periodismo Investigativo demandó a la Junta de Control Fiscal? Sí, el Centro de Periodismo Investigativo demandó a la Junta de Control Fiscal en el 2017, exigiéndole acceso a varias categorías de información pública. Dentro de estas categorías se encuentran los documentos que contienen comunicaciones de la Junta de Control Fiscal con el gobierno de Puerto Rico y el gobierno de Estados Unidos, también sobre contrataciones, presupuestos y minutas financieras de la Junta de Control Fiscal. Sin embargo, desde el 2017, a pesar de que el Centro de Periodismo ha tenido victoria en los tribunales, la Junta se ha negado a hacer esta información pública, tanto así que el pasado miércoles 11 de enero se vio en el Tribunal Supremo este caso en donde la Junta de Control Fiscal pidió apelar, alegando que tiene inmunidad soberana y que no puede ser demandado y por consecuencia no tiene que mostrar estos documentos ni hacerlos públicos. ¿Y qué es esta cuestión de la inmunidad soberana? Pues la inmunidad soberana se le reconoce a los estados, al gobierno de Estados Unidos y a los países, y básicamente es como una protección de que los ciudadanos no puedan demandarte. Sin embargo, el Centro de Periodismo Investigativo argumenta que la Junta de Control Fiscal no tiene esta inmunidad soberana porque la Junta de Control Fiscal es un ente que el Congreso puso dentro del gobierno territorial de Puerto Rico. Así que por consecuencia se tienen que someter a la Constitución de Puerto Rico, que establece lo siguiente.
I'll stop it right there. But basically, this is a very interesting way. All the examples we've seen are very interesting ways in which influencers, in a completely independent way from CPI, are using content and talking about different topics that are relevant to Puerto Ricans in their own way, from their own angle and point of view. And it's a very unique and effective way to get to the people other than reading our stories. So I think it's very efficient that this way of them using our content. They usually just use the web page behind them and just talk on camera about um, their point of view. We'll see some that are not you know like that straightforward. They use every kinds of you know bad words or whatever. So we'll see different ways in which this
El
happens.
Centro de Periodismo Investigativo sacó esta noticia el 27 de noviembre. Premian con 6 millones en contratos a Physician HMO, a pesar de sus fallas. Y tú dices, Glory, ese nombre me suena familiar. Me está como que me suena. Te refresco la memoria. Te suena familiar porque fue Physicians HMO quien certificó que Hermes Ávila tenía disque una condición terminal y fue excarcelado para que pasara sus últimos días en su hogar. Y como ya sabemos, esto ocurre. Y Joan Meléndez Vega es asesinada en los tubos de Manatí mientras él está supuestamente pasando sus últimos días en la casa. Okay.
Let's see, this one probably is the one that I wanted to show you now.
Creo que ya está alturas todos sabemos que aparecieron estos billboards por todas las carreteras de Puerto Rico y nadie sabía de dónde salieron. Y resulta que fue nada más y nada menos que Bad Bunny. El PNP se encabronó y le puso una querella a Bad Bunny y a Vimedia. Y sin cojones le estuvo porque rapidito se identificó quién lo hizo y le tumbaron la querella. Y no es por ser la más mamona, pero Benito, de verdad, si tú ves esto, tienes mi respeto y admiración. Ojalá más artistas tuviesen los cojones que estás teniendo tú ahora mismo. Y entonces hoy mismo el atragantado de Rivera Chats responde con esta mierda de billboard charrísima. Tomás, papi, de verdad, sácatela de la tráquea. O sea, tienes que tener esas rodillas en carne viva, jodido mamalón. Patético es poco. Y como si todo esto fuese poco, ayer mismo salió esta noticia del Centro de Periodismo Investigativo que encontró que habían alrededor de 900,000 fallecidos en el registro electoral. Y muchos aparecen aquí que votaron en las últimas 2 elecciones. Porque parece que en Puerto Rico los muertos votan. Y adivina por qué partido votaron. Adivina. Yo no sé si están captando la seriedad de la situación, pero el PNP cometió fraude electoral. Pero me estaban llamando a mí mentirosa cuando yo dije que los funcionarios PNP hacían trampa en el conteo de papeletas en las elecciones. Ya se los dije antes y vuelvo con la cantaleta hoy. Sacaste tu tarjeta electoral, bello, eso está brutal. Pero ahora toca el trabajo de verdad y no es solamente votar. Hay que defender los votos.
Well, as I mentioned, there are different ways of showcasing our content. This is a good one. Oh, we're using.
También pueden ser historias con algunos elementos de verdad, mezcladas con exageraciones o datos falsos o incorrectos. Estos son los consejos del CPI. Verifica el medio que publica por el URL, analiza el contenido, corrobora la información con otras fuentes, desconfía de las redes sociales, desarrolla pensamiento crítico, verifica el autor del reportaje, verifica la autenticidad de las imágenes y sigue en tus redes sociales a medios y periodistas confiables.
Well, I think those are good examples of how to use our content in social media. I would just only mention that It is also important that you consider that most of our stories have data visualizations, infographics, and different charts that usually are part of the story. Sometimes even video or photo galleries that are included in most of the investigations, and you can use them to highlight some data from the story. I would also like to mention that you can receive our stories directly to your email through our newsletter. You can subscribe to it, and we have an English version and a Spanish version. So you can just subscribe when you access periodismoinvestigativo.com. And of course, you can follow us on social media at CPIPR, in most social media. And our journalists are also usually available for interviews or just to clarify and or give you additional data that you could be interested. Um, so you just write to us and we'll coordinate any interview for background or for the record with any of the journalists publishing stories at CPI. We do this every week. We participate in local radio, in TV weekly, and we are available to explain the findings of our stories, and to defend the findings of the stories anywhere. So I think that covers almost everything I wanted to show you, and I'm available for questions or comments.
Thank you so much, Carla. So, familia, there you have it. You've heard from two powerhouse Boricua institutions that are authorities on information and research in our community. And we urge you to take a look at the Centro de Periodismo Investigativo, the Center for Investigative Journalism in Puerto Rico, and the Center for Puerto Rican Studies, and tap their content. So tap their content so that the storytelling on social media or different platforms is accurate and thorough and comes from our community's perspective. And of course, as was emphasized by both, please give credit so folks know where the source of information is from, especially in this landscape of so much, where there's such a big volume of information, and sometimes you don't know what's accurate and what isn't. So please use these resources. Thank you so much, CPI, El Centro. Thank you to all of the panelists, Edison, Miss Angelina, Antonio, Christina, for moderating our partners in this initiative, this very embryonic initiative that we want to try out and build up. And finally, thank you again for your patience with the tech issues. We will send the links to this whole conversation to those who signed up on Eventbrite. And of course, it'll be available on our Instagram page. And of course, also YouTube will upload it there. So thank you so much. And we hope you'll use these resources and that you got insight from the panelists. Thank you.